All right, now before we get back to more cuts from Sidney Powell yesterday, let's go to the chairman and the CEO of Smartmatic itself. Smartmatic, again, is the parent company of Dominion Voting Systems. It's some guy, Antonio Mugica, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's Venezuelan. Here he is in 2017 talking about the fact that somehow 1 million votes got added to put Hugo Chavez over the top in Venezuela from the same system. Listen to this.
Smartmatic has provided election technology and support services in Venezuela since 2004.
This guy is the CEO of the system we use? Wow, really?
Even in moments of deep political conflict and division, we have been satisfied that the voting process and the count has been completely accurate.
Right, he's saying we thought so, but now he's going to apologize here. He's like Gavin Newsom apologizing. We'll get to him at the end of the podcast today. But he was going to say, no, we made a mistake. There was 1 million votes. We're sorry. Listen.
It is therefore with the deepest regret that we have to report that the turnout numbers on Sunday, 30th of July, for the Constituent Assembly in Venezuela were tampered with.
Okay, this is the system we use. Okay.
Based on the robustness of our system, we know without any doubt that the turnout of the recent election for a National Constituent Assembly was manipulated.
Okay, I mean, they're doing it in Venezuela. The question is, are we doing it here? Sidney Powell says yes.
It is important to highlight that similar manipulations are made in manual elections in many countries, but they go undetected because of a lack of electronic security and auditing safeguards.
All right, I mean, here he is saying as much in 2017. I mean, this is amazing.
So what happened?
I think it's where he gets to the point about 1 million votes.
Why can't we stand by the results of previous Venezuelan elections, but we cannot endorse the elections held last Sunday? Our automated election system is designed to make it evident when results are manipulated.
All right.
However, there must be people auditing the system and watching for that evidence.
You know, it's funny because when you talk about Philadelphia and where was it, Detroit, that's like old school, you know, people looking over the shoulder to look at who's doing what to the ballots, where the real fix, you know, the deck is really stacked electronically, as, you know, it should be. It's 2020. That's why they're talking to Jack Dorsey. That's why we're talking to Mark Zuckerberg. It's the electronic world is where it all lives now. Here's a little bit more of this guy, the CEO. I mean, this is just weird.
During the National Constituent Assembly elections, there were no auditors from the opposition parties, as they did not want to participate. An audit would allow everyone to know the exact participation.
All right, I'm going to stop right there. But there he is talking about the fact that it was 1 million votes. Whether he gets to it, I don't want to listen to any more of this guy. Let's get back to Sidney Powell, though, because I want to tell you exactly how they did it here. Let's listen to Sidney Powell yesterday again, and again, it's kind of distorted.
The voting machine displays a voting result that the voter intends and then prints out a paper ballot, which reflects that change does not matter.
Right. What I think she's saying is that and if we do a hand count, see, we may pick up on this. In other words, the ballots are one thing. The ballots will show one thing. But at some point along the line, all the information gets digitized. And that's where they get involved. So if you did a hand count and looked at every ballot in the United States, there should be quite a difference. They use the algorithm to pull a little bit here, a little bit from there, so that you would never notice.
It is the software that counts the digitized vote and reports the results.
Right. It's the digitized vote that matters. The paper ballots say one thing. You know, when you mailed yours in, or when you went and you punched the card, or whatever you did this time, that says one thing, but at some point along the line, it all gets digitized, and that's where the algorithms kick in.
The software itself is the one that changes the information electronically to the result that the operator of the software and vote counting system intends to produce that counts. That's how it's done. So the software itself configures the vote and voting result, changing the selection made by the voter. The software decides the result regardless of what the voter votes.
Right. The vote, you can vote whatever you want. You can vote all day long for, evil Trump, but it doesn't matter because once it gets digitized, right, then it gets flipped. Powell also alleges that the reason why you've got now 30 states apparently have used this software with the back door, that people were paid off to adopt the system into their states, too, as well. There was a lot of chicanery and money thrown around. Hey, you want this digital software? It's great. Dominion voting systems, it's fabulous. It's all really great. And she alleges more. We'll play one more cut from Sidney Powell. But isn't it strange that the mainstream media, I didn't hear it on Fox this morning. They may have mentioned it, but I watched a lot of the 7-hour at Fox and Friends and some of the 8 o'clock hour. I heard none of this.
And now they're scrubbing the internet of their complaints and the articles that they were relying on to complain about it.
All right. Now, what she's referring to here, and this is what's weird about the media, is that they didn't care at all about any of this. right? PBS, I remember, was interested in election security. I think as lately as last September, they had a big story about it. NBC, somebody put something up on my page yesterday about NBC and the election fraud. This was 2019. But now that Biden has won, they have no interest in it. And what Sidney Powell is referring to here is people like Amy Klobuchar or Liz Warren who were screaming about election fraud prior to this, and they are nowhere to be seen. And what she's saying now is the articles to which they referred are being scrubbed from the internet. I'll play it again. This is what she's talking about.
And now they're scrubbing the internet of their complaints and the articles that they were relying on to complain about it.
Right. So, who would that be? That would be Google, like burying that stuff. I'm telling you, the fix is in here. If we get to the bottom of this, I'll be shocked. Who has paid the price at the highest levels over the last 4 years for what the Intelligence Committee had done to evil Trump? Who paid the price? Comey's still out there tweeting pictures of himself in a Biden T-shirt. He's walking away with it. Look at people at the Attorney General's office. I mean, look at Sally Yates was for a weekend or two. She was the acting, as far as I know, Attorney General in the United States for 5 minutes before Trump got rid of her. These people at the very top cheating. Who paid the price? Nobody. Why should it stop there? That's what I'm talking about. And then it gets even worse. I mentioned to you that Sidney Powell says that this voting system and the I guess the software is used in 29, 30 states. But and then you have like Texas who said, no, we don't want it. She says, that's too bad, Texas. You know why? Because all of this is in every system. The ability to change capability is built into every system. It's in the DNA, she said. So Texas thinks they're sidestepping a bullet here. They just picked up another bullet. They didn't even know it. That's what's going on here. That there is a backdoor and that there is a vote change capability built into every system, whether you want it or not, whether you like it or not. And the strange thing to me is that the media has zero interest in this. Now, the Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, God, the CISA. Oh, man. Do they know anybody at the CIA? Here's the CISA. Issued a statement last week, and they defended the integrity of the 2020 election, just so that you know. The problem is, because they say everything's fine, nothing to see here. The problem is that two of the main election software companies that have been called into question actually sit on the board at the CISA. So they're in at the highest levels there. I don't know. It's just amazing to me. Now, we have the lockdown, as you know, is coming to a Thanksgiving near you. I bought my turkey yesterday, and it's 14 pounds, so I'm probably going to be arrested at some point. I plan to have 4 people for Thanksgiving, so you're not supposed to do that. Gavin Newsom is apologizing now for being busted at the French Laundry, which is a snooty kind of restaurant somewhere up in wine country, where he was, I guess, in violation of his own lockdown restrictions. Here he is yesterday. I think he protests too much. Listen to this.
On the minimized mixing, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge something just before we go into the Q&A.
Yeah, he got busted.
And that is very soberly acknowledge that a few weeks ago...
Because he is locking down everybody, and he's really putting the screws to Orange County and you and Thanksgiving, and you got to stay in your hovel.
I was asked to go to a friend's 50th birthday.
Right, he's 50. I mean, he's getting old.
My wife and I
brought my wife, too, so it's not like I'm having any fun.
A friend that I've known for almost 20 years.
And I know the guy for 20 years. Come on.
And a friend that...
I mean, you people don't know anybody for 20 years. Really? You don't have any wives. I do.
Well, put a lot of time and energy into his 50th birthday.
What's funny about it, he goes on for another 2 minutes here.
It was in Napa, which was in the orange status.
Right, it's not so bad.
Relatively loose compared to some other counties.
Yeah, really. And doesn't he have a winery that was open the entire time, too? What's it called? Kickback? It ought to be called Kickback. I think it's called Plump Jack. Actually, if you have a winery, I think Kickback is great. Really. But Plump Jack, the governor's winery, received a COVID relief loan. And while it was still open for business, it never had to close. This is after the Governor Newsom himself had imposed the second crackdown or lockdown in July over 25 counties across California here. But he's still apologizing for, he got busted.
It was an outdoor restaurant, and we started the program started at 4 o'clock. It was early.
All right, whatever. I mean,
reservations. I got there a little bit late at 4:30.
Right, I wasn't there the whole time.
And as soon as I sat down at the larger table, I realized it was a little larger group than I had anticipated. And
this guy just doesn't know when to shut up.
I made a bad mistake. Instead of sitting down, I should have stood up and walked back, got in my car, and drove back.
Yeah, sure. We know who you are because we do this podcast 7 days a week. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and on Instagram is Crummey Joe. I'm your host, Joe Crummey in Los Angeles, and those are my evil thoughts.